Hello, everyone. Welcome to Valiantys' Introduction to the Atlassian Strategy Collection webinar. My name is Jason Kidner. I'm going to be your tour guide for the Strategy Collection over the next hour. I'm an engagement director here at Valiantys. I'm also an Atlassian certified professional. I've been in the Atlassian ecosystem over 7 years, and I know the Strategy Collection well, worked with a number of clients on it. So I'm happy to share more about it today. I am joined on this webinar by my colleague, Kristen, who will be posting links in the chat. She's going to be monitoring the chat, also monitoring the Q&A section of this Zoom call. So we're really glad all of you can join. And I gather we got a good crowd today. So we're really happy to be here with you all. Let's go over our agenda. It's pretty basic. So we're going to start off with a brief overview of Atlassian Strategy Collection to talk about, Atlassian's view on it, the apps that are involved in it, and then we're going to talk about some other concepts that play heavily into the Strategy Collection. Then we're going to get into the tools themselves. We're going to walk through the highlights and capabilities of Focus and Talent, and then Jira Align. And at the very end, we should have a few minutes for questions. So if you do have any questions along the way, please put them into the Q&A area of this Zoom meeting. Okay, so let's just get right into it and talk about enterprise strategy and planning. And we'll look at what Atlassian's view on this is. So enterprise strategy and planning can be summarized as how an organization sets and operationalizes its strategy through the strategy lifecycle. And when done effectively, this enterprise strategy and planning, or I'll say ESP, can help leaders improve their strategy to outcome management. And the truth is, every organization already does this in some form or fashion. Leaders in every type of industry are asking themselves and their teams questions like the following. Do we have the right strategies? Do we have the right people working on the right things? Do our goals clearly align to our strategic priorities? And are we adequately funding our priorities? Okay, those are just a few questions to start with. So commonly the answers to these questions live in a wide variety of tools that require a lot of manual effort to update, to provide status reports, things like that, to basically visualize the answers to those questions in a meaningful way. Okay, we often see pain points with any of those questions, maybe all of those questions, with the clients we work with. So enter Atlassian's products, or as they're called, apps now for the ESP, that is now called the Strategy Collection. So Atlassian launched their strategy collection at their Team 25 event last April. It's almost been a year now. The strategy collection is a collection of the Atlassian apps for executives to optimize strategy planning, to prioritize, and to ultimately execute on the work that's being planned to help achieve those strategies. It connects strategic priorities with work, goals, people, funds, leveraging these apps to bridge the gaps, again, between that strategy and the execution. So currently, the apps in the strategy collection are Focus, which is for real-time strategy visibility, Talent, which is the newest app here in this collection. It's for intelligent workforce planning, and then Align or Jira Align, which is the one you might know about. It's it's been the longest running one. And this is ultimately for the strategic work planning and execution across all your portfolios and programs in an organization. I also just want to mention that it's not shown here in this view, but there is also a product called Enterprise Insights, which is the data lake of Jira Align that allows you to connect that data to a BI tool of your choice to do real-time custom reporting. So that's also a part of this strategy collection. When you buy those licenses, you get these apps, and you also get Enterprise Insights with it. So let's now shift. Oh yeah, actually I have these slides here. So Focus is one. We're going to be demoing all these. So Focus, again, Talent for your people intelligent workforce planning, Jira Align and Enterprise Insights. And now this leads us then to the strategy lifecycle. So Atlassian released a very thorough white paper on their viewpoint around the enterprise strategy and planning. And I'm trying to cover some of that here in a very quick way. But a big part of that was the strategy lifecycle. Okay. And so just want to walk through this. The strategy lifecycle can be thought of as the time dimension of ESP. So generally, strategies move through four phases that you can see here on the screen: strategy, planning, execution, and then evaluation. And the flow of this is likely not linear, as it's shown here. It might take different forms with each of your strategies or focus areas, as they're going to be, as you'll see, they're called in focus. But as we carry out these activities necessary in each phase, Atlassian's portfolio of tools are going to come into play and help us manage, communicate, and analyze our status and progress. So while this is really high level, it is the general progress or process we see our customers go through in, again, a wide variety of industries. So let's now map each of these each of the parts of the life cycle to the Atlassian system of work. So with strategy, we're going to be using primarily focus, where we're going to begin to create those focus areas and associate them with goals and work, potentially with budgets and people. And then talent comes in again for having those positions, having the people in the positions that are needed to ultimately accomplish those focus areas. So those two come into play with strategy. Then when you shift to the planning, we will primarily be in Jira Align. And Jira Align is great, as you'll see, for backlog prioritization. There's road mapping, there's capacity and forecasting modules, and then there's some modules, again, down at the release train or program level for PI planning, and a lot of reports that show the roll-up of your work that you're doing down at the Agile teams, all the way up to your higher level portfolio epics. I also have here the Jira Product Discovery app. This isn't part of the strategy collection, but it is a tool in the Atlassian cloud that's separate, even a separate tool from Jira itself. But we've seen a lot of clients use Jira Product Discovery for the intake of their ideas, if you will, that could eventually become the work that is put into Jira Align. So I'm not going to demo that today, but just wanted to highlight that could be used for intake. And we've seen a lot of clients consider that. Then for execution, we have Jira and Jira Align. Again, Jira Align is, you're bringing down, you're executing on those high-level work items. But once it gets to the team level, down or the release train and team level, the work starts to shift over into Jira. So your features in Jira Align come into Jira as features, and then the teams are breaking down those features into stories, potentially subtasks in Jira, and they're executing their sprints within Jira. But all that data syncs back into Jira Align, and that's where you can start to see progress being made at all levels of scale, which then leads us to evaluation. So this is where we have Focus, we have Atlassian Analytics. This is also where Enterprise Insights can come into play. Again, that data lake of Jira Align. I mentioned Analytics here because that is an out-of-the-box app that comes with the Atlassian Cloud when you buy the enterprise tier of Jira and or Confluence. You get the Analytics app, which allows you to get to your Jira and Confluence data lakes. If you do have the strategy collection, you can also get to your Enterprise Insights data lake. And then you can use Analytics for your BI tool, or you can potentially even get that data out to another tool of your choice. Okay. And then Focus is obviously where you're evaluating how did we do on our strategies in terms of people, budgets, progress. Did we hit our timelines? Things like that. And there's a few other Atlassian apps noted here that we're not really going to get into. Just to highlight that Atlassian is building Atlassian Intelligence and AI, known as Atlassian Rovo, into all of their cloud products. Okay, so before we're almost at demo time, but before we get there, we just want to talk about the who, the what, the where with the strategy collection. So really getting into who are the people, what is the work being done? What is the time scales at each level of scale? And which applications, which apps are being used? So let's start at the top here with the executive teams. So executive teams would typically be working, if they would use any of these apps in the collection, it would be Focus. This is where your strategies, or they're called focus areas in Focus, would be, and these would typically be quarters, if not years, timeline. The portfolio teams might be touching into Focus. This is where you're starting to get into your themes, your portfolio epics, which are lasting quarters, if not years again. And this is where you start to go from Focus down into Jira Align. Jira Align has the highest level of work is the strategic theme or theme. And so they would be working up there. Those could be broken into portfolio epics or initiatives, whatever term you call them, and which are done in quarters, releases, potentially multiple quarters, if you will. If you have a solution layer in your organization, there could be a solution layer in Jira Align. Again, working on capabilities potentially. That's another work item that could be slotted in here between epics and features. So this is a potential in the tools. And then ultimately you're getting down to your program teams, your release train teams, if you're doing scaled agile, that are working on features. The features, again, are ideally time boxed into a planning increment or quarter. And then ultimately those features are allocated to different teams that are working on those, breaking those into stories and tasks that are done in sprints. So, and this is where you can see Focus leading down the Jira line, leading down to Jira for execution, for planning and execution down at that story level. All right. So let's now get into our demos. We're going to start off again, kind of at that top, working our way down. So we're going to start off with Focus. So for this, I'm going to jump over to our demo site. And this is in the Atlassian Cloud. So Focus and Talent are in our Atlassian Cloud apps. And just wanted to highlight here, I'm showing you Jira and our client demo instance of Jira, just to highlight that you can jump around to the different cloud apps going to this switch site area. And to just highlight here that you can switch sites, from Jira to Confluence, but this is also where Focus and Talent would also be located. And you can control who can access each of these apps as well. But they are out here living within the whole Atlassian cloud. So once someone would choose Focus, then Focus would open up. And I'm just going to walk through kind of a high-level walkthrough, and then we'll get into what the focus areas look like. So you'll see this fairly typical UI for all the Atlassian Cloud apps now. So you have this left-hand panel that starts with a For You. It'll bring in different things of focus areas that you care about, that you're following, or that you own. So you can see a high-level view of activity of all of those, and which ones are at risk, which ones are off track or on track or completed. So things that you care about are shown here. There's a recent option that shows the focus areas that you have been to recently. There's a starred option. Again, this is common amongst all the apps, where you can star or favorite something within the app that you can get to very quickly through this starred option. Then we come to the focus areas, which we'll get into shortly, and strategic events, which is a brand new feature within Focus that I'll touch on here as well. And then there's also shortcuts to a goals area. This goals is something that you can be toggled on with when you have Jira Confluence, and it's another app, if you will, that can be leveraged. And I'll show you how you can integrate and link together goals with focus areas. We also have a shortcut to Talent. We have a shortcut to Atlassian projects as well, and you can customize the sidebar. So that's your left-hand panel. At the top of the screen, you have your search box where you can search both Focus. You can also search other apps as well in the cloud. This is where you have your Create button, where you can create different focus areas. You can also create strategic events this way. and even be taken over into a goals where you can create goals as well. Atlassian Cloud apps have an inline notification area. We can see different things you're following or watching to get updates on. There's a help option, and then there's a settings option. Let me just come into here quickly to show you that there's both a personal focus settings and an admin area. I want to highlight the admin settings just to show you that this is where you as an admin of Focus can come in here and you can customize the hierarchy of your focus areas. So you would do this here. So you can create multiple hierarchies. This is the hierarchy we have set up in our demo instance. I'll show you how those play out when we get to the focus areas in a moment. But this is where you set those up. You can also set up custom fields within focus areas, and you can set up integrations as well with other connectors and import data potentially as well. And you can also set up group permissions. So you can set up groups that are within your Atlassian Cloud organization and what they can and can't do within the focus areas. So you have some control over permissions here, which is, again, this is a bit of a newer feature within Focus. And then with any Atlassian Cloud app, you have your own personal settings up here in the right-hand corner. All right, so let's get back into Focus. And let's look at focus areas. This is really the heart of the Focus app, our focus areas. This is what would be your strategies. And so when you first come in here, you see all the focus areas that exist. And you can see them in a couple different views that you can note here on the far right. It defaults to a list view that is pretty standard in a lot of different Atlassian apps, where you have your focus areas here, and then you can see different columns or different fields that represent columns that represent different fields on your focus areas. And you can move these around. You can customize these columns here, toggle them on or off. But the idea is you can get a quick view at what type, what's the status, the target date owner, etc., whether you're following them, things like that. And as well here, actually, I'm going to, before I jump into the breakdown, I want to highlight the map view, which is over here. So the map view, again, a little bit different view, gives more of that family tree type of view where you have your high-level company strategies. Again, this is the hierarchy I've set up within this demo instance. So you first see your top-level strategies, and then you can click into how those break down into the next level strategies. You can even click on any one of these, and you can see how many sub-focus areas this particular focus area has. So, and you can click into that, and that'll just start to branch over into that particular branch of focus areas that you can start to go up and down with. And this actually drills in. Let me go back to the main one. And you can just basically start to see which focus areas you have at each level of the hierarchy. And you can see a little bit of information about them. And you can ultimately click on one of them and it'll open up a focus area. So that's that map view. But again, you'll probably, the default view, maybe the more used view is going to be this list view. And besides the columns, what you see, actually, before I get into those here, you can see your focus areas. These are the ones you own. You can see those here and the breakdown. You can also see which focus areas you're following. You can also create custom views where you can basically just get a specific snapshot and pick and choose which focus areas you care about. So you don't just see just one particular hierarchy, but you can see a couple different focus areas from different hierarchies in a custom view. So you have that, and then you can see any focus areas that have been archived, which we don't have any thus far. The other thing you can see with this is you have a lot of filtering opportunities with text, status owner, the type, meaning which hierarchy type is it, goals that you want to see, which if you have a particular goal, you can see which focus areas that ties to and which ones you're following. But then once you get down into the focus areas, again, you can start to see a breakdown. You can click this expand icon, and you can start to expand down through one of your given focus areas to see its sub-focus areas here. And then let's actually click into one of these. So I'm going to click into this demo one. We can see it's down at this lowest level and it's off track. So let's see what's happening here. So once you open up a focus area, you'll see a number of tabs at the top. And you'll also see some information in the upper right and a panel on the right hand side as well. So let's walk through these one at a time. In the summary, make sure I get here. So in the summary, you're going to see, again, work, kind of an overview, a quick dashboard, if you will, of the work related to this, any goals that are off track, positions, which again, we'll talk about positions shortly. This ties into talent, funds. Then this is also where you're going to see any updates, the latest updates here of status changes, date changes, any comments, and you can see an audit history, an activity history as well, what's been happening with this particular focus area. On the right-hand side, you're going to see who the owner is, who the followers are. You can also add people as followers, what type of focus area it is. If it has a parent, you'll see that here as well. And in the upper right, this is where you'll see the status. You have these statuses. These are out-of-the-box statuses that you can choose from. You can see the dates, the target date for this. These are fuzzy dates, so you don't have to get real granular down even to the day unless you want to. You can keep it at the quarter or month or down to the day. This is also where you can follow or unfollow. You can share a link. And this is also where you have some more actions around favoriting it, starring it. You can even export it, delete it, archive it. So a lot of opportunities with each of these. So this is your summary. You also have an About tab. This basically allows you to put in a rich text, like a detailed description of what the focus area is. You have an Updates tab. This is where you can post an update and update the status potentially, update the date, basically give an update on where this stands, and then everyone who is following this will receive that update, will be notified about it, will be able to view it. So again, you can convey a real-time status update to all the people that care about this particular focus area very, very easily. So there's this, and you can see previous updates listed here as well. Then we come to the Goals tab. And again, this ties in, if you have goals turned on in the Atlassian Cloud, this is where you can start to integrate goals with your focus areas. So you see a dashboard here based on the goals and the statuses of those goals. You can see again how many are off track, on track, all these different statuses that goals have. We can see here that there's just one pending goal in this particular focus area. And as I scroll down, I start to see the goals. So I see my focus area here, and I see the goals listed here. And you can even see that goals can have sub-goals, if you will. And so these goals, let me actually show you, you can add new goals through this by clicking this Add button. You can search for a goal that already exists, or you can create your own goal. I'm not going to create one here, but you can put a name. You basically choose the type of goal it is. It's basically a goal. You can also put success measures under a goal, basically to start to get to that OKR view. So these goals can have key results, which are called success measures in the goals app here, where you can put your key results and you can start to make updates on those. And goals also have a target date and an owner, and you can follow goals, things like that. So you can create goals or connect existing goals to the focus area here in this UI. If I click on one of these goals, we can see a little bit too about it in this list view, progress being made, target date. When I click on these, I see a frame come out with the goal here on the right-hand side where I can see more about it. I can see the progress being made, again, based either on the metrics here put on this goal itself, or potentially the metrics could come from those sub those sub goals or success metrics that you put underneath a goal. So, and this is where you can make updates as well. And there's some other fields within goals. Don't want to get really in depth with goals, but goals have their own updates. You can connect goals to Atlassian projects. You can connect goals to Atlassian or to Jira Align work items, even to Jira work items as well. And there's success measures. Yeah. So that's goals. Just wanted to highlight that goals is its own app within the cloud. Whether you have the strategy collection or not, you can get access to goals, but goals can tie in directly to focus areas. Then focus areas also have a work component where you can tie work items to focus areas. And you can see, again, similar to the goals dashboard, you can see the work dashboard, how many work items, what progress they're in, are any overdue, which are complete. As I scroll down, again, you get a similar view to goals, but now you start to see what work items are connected. We only have one so far, and I can see based on this icon that this is in Jira Align. And if I hover over it, yeah, sure enough, I can see that this is an epic that's in Jira Align. And it even notes it here. This is coming from Jira Align, and it gives a high-level view of when it was updated, what the description is of that epic. So this is where you can start to see some integration taking place with Jira Align. So, and if I click on this, it would open up Jira Align. But before we're going to get to Jira Align shortly, but I want to highlight that you can add other work items here, connect work items to this focus area by clicking, let me go back here, by clicking this add button on the far right. And you can set up your focus. This is customizable, but you can set it up to connect to an instance of Jira. You can also set it up to connect to a Jira Align instance. You can also set it up for an integration with your Atlassian projects app. This again is another app that comes with Jira Cloud that you can use or not use, but you can also connect these focus areas to any of these. And you can connect that up in the back end of Focus. Actually, let me go back there. So yeah, so this highlights if you choose Jira, you can choose the site of Jira that you want to connect with, and then you can basically search for work items within Jira. Or over in Jira Align, notice here that you can choose from themes, epics, capabilities. Again, these are the higher level work items within Jira Align that you would really likely be connecting your strategies to. Notice you can't connect it to a feature or a story here. It's more at these higher level work items. So, and you can do that, and then you can search for a work item over here. I can start to type in AI, and it's going to reach over to the Jira Align instance that I'm connected with, and it's giving me opportunities, various epics to potentially connect to. And then you connect to one or more, and you can connect those to this focus area. And those would show up in your work area with their statuses. So this gives you that opportunity to connect there. And then lastly, there is a positions tab. So this gets into people, which gets into talent. If you don't have talent set up with positions, and we're about to talk about talent, but this is where the integration with talent shows up. So you can see the positions that are mapped to this focus area, how many of those have been filled or not filled, what's the tenure of the people filling those positions. We can even get breakdowns of where those people are located. Again, this is all coming from talent. And then I can see down here for this focus area, sure enough, Jason, there's a talent CEO, there's Vicky, they're all positions or people actually that are filling positions that are needed for this particular focus area. And I can see some more information around each of those people. So that's shown here. Atlassian is continuing to work on Focus and is continuing to work on the funding piece of that. That's not showing up here. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with the funding to bring in the budgeting and where things stand, but I don't have that to show you today. But hopefully we'll hear more about that this year from Atlassian. Okay, so that finishes our Focus. Oh, actually, one last thing in Focus. This is a newer feature since the last webinar I've done. So it's called Strategic Events. And strategic events are really meant to represent the planning period that aligns focus areas with the people and with the budgets for an upcoming execution period. So imagine you're going into the next quarter or PI or even year, and this focus area is the focus areas are still out there happening or maybe just start getting started. So these strategic events are meant to basically allow for proposals of more funding or less funding, more people or less people to be added to a given focus area. So to highlight here, I'll go into one of these strategic events. And these strategic events have a summary that shows the different focus areas they have an about. And then we come to what makes up these events, which are proposals and changes. So proposals are what ultimately are going to basically tell these, or they make up these strategic events in that they're going to show what's the impact of this proposal, what are the positions being moved around or requested, what are the funds being requested. So when you create one of these, you give it a name. Let me put one of these in here. An owner, you can tie it to a focus area. So let me tie it to, actually, I'll tie it to that demo one. I don't need to do a description. So now I'm creating a proposal, and proposals can be tied to goals, but then proposals are ultimately made up of what are called changes. And this is where you get really to the granular level of what these strategic events are all about. So you have an event made up of proposals. These proposals are made up of one or more changes. And you can see here that changes can be new funds to request, new positions requested, or maybe funds are moved around from one focus area to another, or moving positions around. So those are your opportunities here within these proposals. And again, if I come back up, for the sake of time, I'm not going to dwell on this, but you can show here, you see your proposals that have been added to this particular event. And then from all the changes in those proposals, they show up in this changes tab. So I can see all of these changes. There's 7 here that have come through the proposals into this particular event, where I can see there's been requested, positions requested. I can see non-labor funds added. So, and the different focus areas that those apply to. So there's a lot of interconnecting here around these events. They can apply to one or more focus areas and around positions and costs and funding. So again, a newer capability within Focus that I'm really interested to see where this leads more in the overall usage of the tool. Okay, so with that, I want to switch over to Talent because we want to get to Jira Align. So Talent, again, it's one of the newer apps within the strategy collection. And just a real quick overview of Talent. So again, Talent is going to be for your intelligent workforce planning. That's going to use your HIRS tool like Workday to be the source of truth for the positions in your organization and ultimately the people in your organization filling those positions. Okay. But what Talent ultimately does is it brings in that data from, again, an outside HIRS tool, and then it allows you to connect those people and positions to a focus area. So here in Talent, we have what are called positions. I'm going to click on this. And this is where you're going to have the positions, again, ideally coming in from an outside source of truth, okay? You're not creating these within Talent to begin with. They're coming in from outside of Talent. And so you can see those positions. You can see how many of those are filled or not filled. So 3 of these 4 positions are filled. I can see who's filling each of these positions. And I can also see which focus area these positions are then tied to, okay? Which we saw from the other point of view, we saw the focus areas and which positions, how many positions those focus areas have. So this is just looking at it from a different angle. And I can also see who the managers are. So you can see those direct reports in here as well. If I'm managing any people, which I'm not in this instance of Talent, I would see the people that I'm managing. Or maybe there's positions that are not filled that I'm meant to be managing as well. So that would show up here if you are a manager. So it looks like Vicky, yeah, Vicky's set up to manage me, to manage somebody who's not filled. So if Vicky were in here, she would click on this and see myself and see this other position that's not filled. Okay, so you see that here. And then also, if you click on one of these positions, actually, let me click on the filled by. I can see then the people, I can see information about myself, lots of different fields that could be filled out. Again, these would all be coming in from your outside source of truth for your HR system. And you can bring in any number of fields in. There's also a lot of custom fields that you can create within Talent as well. So, but this is again ultimately where you're connecting the dots between positions to the people that are filling them, and then ultimately you're connecting those to a focus area that they're working in. One last thing about Talent is under the admin area. Let's go to the settings. So this is where you can bring in data from CSV files for positions, for workers. This is also where you can connect to an HR tool. I know that they definitely have a connector set up for Workday that you can leverage. I don't know if they have connectors to other HIRS tools yet at this moment, but if not, you can bring in, again, you can upload data into this. And there's also permissions, there's fields. So let me get rid of that. There's also fields where you can customize your fields and bring in custom fields as well. And then position allocation. Again, if you need to manually do this or bring in those position allocations to focus areas, you can do that through CSV files as well. Okay, let's switch gears real quick. We're going to take a quick commercial break here. We've done our demos of Focus and Talent. Now just a quick commercial break about Valiantys. So Valiantys is an Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner. We are 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. We've been a 13-time Atlassian Partner of the Year. So we've been around a long time, and we know Atlassian products and the ecosystem incredibly well. We work with many, many large enterprise companies, at least 65. This is probably an older slide. At least 65 of the global Fortune 500 work with us. We don't just implement the tools, we also have a full stack development center of excellence. We have a wonderful array of engineers that help us to do all sorts of different custom solutions, whether it be integrating different tool sets within the Atlassian stack to other products out there, or to leverage AI within Atlassian and these new products they have in the cloud, like I mentioned earlier, Rovo. They also have a whole Forge development platform in the cloud that you can do a lot of cool customizations in the Atlassian cloud. Our engineers can help with that. We are Atlassian's first global partner. Again, we have subsidiaries all over the world, and so we can cover wherever you are in the world. We can certainly help you, and over 600 team members to help to support you. How can we help you? Well, a number of different ways. We obviously have consulting, professional services related to Atlassian and solution that you need. We definitely help with licensing with Atlassian products. We have a great relationship with Atlassian, so we can help with that. Like I mentioned earlier, we do integrations. We have custom development work as well. We have managed services if that's needed. And we also have training. We have a public training. We also do private trainings. And we do things like these webinars that are, throughout every week, we do a couple different webinars. And so lots to potentially glean from all of our experts. All right, so that is a really quick commercial break because we only have 20 minutes left and I want to get to Jira Align, which Jira Align, that might be what you've heard about, or the app that you've heard about before you even knew there was a strategy collection. So Jira Align has been around for a number of years. Atlassian acquired it when it used to be called AgileCraft, back in 2019, rebranded it as Jira Align, and has invested a lot into it. So it looks a lot different than it used to, and they continue to invest in it. And I'm excited to share some of those new features in the tool. So let's get back into our demo instance. So now I'm going to switch over to Jira Align. One thing to just note that when you go to this app switcher in the cloud, you will not see Jira Align show up here. That's because Jira Align isn't on the Atlassian cloud platform, as it were, like these other apps are. It is it's another cloud app. It can also be, if need be, there can be an on-prem implementation of it, but most of the clients I've worked with, I think, use the cloud hosting that Atlassian does. But what I'm going to highlight here, and because it has its own, everything's going to end in a JiraAlign.com, and the beginning of the URL is going to be set up specifically for your organization, whatever you want that to be. So this is, again, our demo instance of Jira Align, and it can be set up with authentication with like your other Atlassian cloud products. You can authenticate whatever that looks like, your SSO that you're using for your Atlassian cloud. You can also leverage that now for Jira Align, which is really great. When you come into Jira Align, you'll come into a home screen like this that will show the recent rooms that you've been in, any rooms that you have starred. I'm going to do a quick overview of the UI, and then we're going to jump into some of the layers within the tool. So you have this new Teams dropdown, this newer part of the UI. This is one of the main parts of the tool. This is where you're going to navigate to the team area or layer of scale, if you will, that in the tool that you care about. So you have an enterprise layer, you have these portfolio layers in the tool that you can expand, and you can see which programs are making up that portfolio. You can even then open up one of these programs and you can drill down and see which teams are set up. So you have this hierarchy of teams within Jira Align. Again, starting at the portfolio layer, you can put in a solution layer. If you're a large organization and need that, that can be put in there. Then you get down to your program or release trains, and then all the way down to your teams that are actually doing the story work and testing. So all of those tools or all those teams are represented here, and this is where you're ultimately getting to those different parts of the tool that I'll show shortly. There's also a product module in the tool that allows you to set up products, and you can then put products on, I think it's down really at the feature level that you tie these products to. So you can do some product management within the tool. I'm going to skip over the custom rooms. That's kind of a custom feature that just happens to be turned on in our instance, but not necessarily used by most clients. There is a starred dropdown, again, starred, where you can star the rooms that you care about, and you can get to those very quickly by the star dropdown. There's an items dropdown where you can see all the different work items available within the tool. I'm an admin in here, so I can see everything, but there's a whole huge layer of permissions that you can set up for the roles that you give to people in the tool. But you can see here, you get that whole, all the different layers of scale within this tool, from themes down to epics, to capabilities, to features, to stories, and defects and tasks. There's also other things like objectives, dependencies. There's ideation in the tool, risks, impediments, sprints, program increments, where you can set up those time boxes of program increments that are made up of sprints, even down to release vehicles or fixed versions, as they're called in Jira. So there's a lot of information. Some of this can start here. Some of it may start in Jira and come over here. But you can see that this is really handles all the work from all the way down from subtasks all the way up to themes, potentially. And it's very, very configurable. You have a create screen or a create button here, again, that allows you, if you have the permission to do it, you can create these various work items. Then you have searching, you have notifications, again, like the cloud. They've made this a lot more like the Atlassian cloud products. You have checklists that can be set up. You have help. and a whole settings area, huge admin area. This is if you're an admin in the tool. And then you can also set up some personal settings as well. So, but let's get into, I want to highlight two layers of the tool. So under Teams, I'm going to go into one of these portfolios. I'm going to go into the digital services portfolio. When I click on this, I get to, and basically this out of the box setup when you're at the portfolio layer of the tool. So you have this left-hand bar with or panel with options, and then you have this huge screen based on the options that you choose. So at the beginning, you see which portfolio you're in. You also then, very importantly, you can filter on the work that you care about around the time, meaning the program increment that you care about. And you can choose one or more program increments. I'm choosing the program increment that's set up like the current one. Imagine our organization is in PI 5. So I want to think about planning and execution on the work in PI 5. You'll come into a portfolio room. This is kind of a dashboard, if you will, to show how progress is being made down at the feature level. So you can see quickly a view of the different features that are rolling up to this portfolio that are set up for the PI 5 program increment. But what I want to highlight here is at this level, you have themes, but more importantly, you have epics. And I want to highlight this new beta view of epics. This is, again, a really new feature in the tool that takes the old Epic grid and makes it look just a lot better, a lot more like the Atlassian Cloud, where you see your epics. You can bring in, customize your columns. You can customize filtering here. But this shows you your portfolio epics. Again, these are portfolio epics that happen to be in PI 5. They might be in other ones, but they're in PI 5. And then if we click into one of these, you get a panel that comes from the right-hand side. The Epic is probably has the most possibilities with in terms of tabs and information. Very quickly though, every work item in Jira is going to have a basic details or an initial details tab. This is where you see your summary, description, the type of Epic in this case. You can see the programs that the Epic is tied to, or is going to be worked on by. There's always a primary one. You can also put additional programs on it. The owner, you can see which theme it's rolling up to, if you even have themes set up. Then the program increment is a very important field in the tool. This allows you to put, at the Epic level, you can put one or more program increments onto it to help, again, for planning and for filtering. You have a few date fields to work with. There's support for WSGIF within the tool, WSGIF on a PI by PI basis. There's also estimating that you can do at these different work items, whether that be t-shirt size or point estimates, things like that. And then you see a lot of information around features, acceptance criteria. There's a lot of different interconnecting of these objects within the tool. There's just want to highlight, I don't want to get into all these, but you can customize an intake form. You can make this a custom with some custom fields. There's also a benefits tab for a lean business case. Again, that you have some out of the box fields, but you can customize these. You can add some more in here. There's a value tab that allows for some value engineering, you can do a high level ROI score. This has some customization available as well. There's a newer tab on all the work items called milestones that allow you to add in a particular event or milestone with a start and or due date and description, some other information here. Milestones are really nice. They show up on the new roadmap that has been developed for Jira Align. There's also some spend possibilities, some financial calculations within the tool that you can bring into with your spend tab. You can also do some forecasting and demand management within the tool as well. So again, we don't have time to go through everything, but that's an Epic. Also at portfolio level, there is a backlog view. There's also backlog views down at the other layers of scale. This is where you can see your epics being planned for PI 5. This is where you can drag and drop them and reprioritize them as well. There's also the ability to show a process flow or a Kanban view. So you can set up unique process flows or workflows, if you will, at each layer of scale. And you can get this view to see where each of your epics are in a particular process flow. So you get that in the backlog view. Again, moving through this very quickly, there is a new roadmaps view within the tool that I'm really excited about. This looks so much better than the previous roadmap, the older roadmap, where you can bring in various work items and even objectives. You can see breakdown from epics down to features in this case. You can bring in dates. You can bring in a lot of columns within this view as well and other settings. So they're investing a lot. There's every release that happens monthly will always seems to have some new features within the roadmap. So I'm really excited about this. At the different layers of scale, there's also an OKR hub. This is for your objectives and key results. So there are objectives in the tool and key results that you can leverage. And you can see, again, a hierarchy. There's a whole parallel hierarchy of objectives within the tool, from the portfolio layer down to the program layer, if you will. They can even roll up to higher level goals within the tool as well. So a lot of cool stuff they've done with objectives and key results, again, that can be aligned to your various work items. There's also forecasting and capacity as well, where you can basically set up your capacity down at your team level or at your release train or program levels. You can then forecast, imagine you can set up, we think these release trains are going to have to contribute to this epic at however many team weeks or member weeks. So there's this forecasting and capacity available. I also want to get down to, so this is the portfolio level. And then if you get down to, let's go down to the program level to highlight a few things here. I'm going to go to the mobile program. So here you get a program room that is really great feature for seeing how you're doing on a PI, and you can see progress being made, and there's lots of widgets here that you can bring in to see how progress is being made. This is also where, at the program level, is where your features are going to live. So I can see my feature grid here, and I can click into features. And they're a little less complex than epics. You can have these tabs here. You can have them on or off. Features, again, is where you're going to be setting up a feature to be worked on by one program, and they're going to be worked on only in one program increment. Features is also where you're going to be choosing a Jira project to sync that feature to. So this is where you can connect the dots and sync the feature over to Jira and have the stories then be worked on over in Jira. So there's opportunity for milestones here, a spend tab, forecasting as well at the feature level. But what I want to highlight here down at the program level is the program board. And this is a part of the tool that's been really, really popular, especially those organizations doing PI planning, as it were. This is where you can see for a given program, you can see the teams that make up that program. And then there's a lot of different shapes here, but this is where you have you have a legend here, but you have rectangles that represent the features that are being planned in a given PI. So you can see here which features a given team is working on. Multiple teams can work on a feature. You can click into one of these features and you can see which teams are working on it. You can see any stories that are being worked on by a given team. And if the team has set a target completion date or sprint for that, you can see that here. That can be set up here. And then you see all the different sprints that make up a PI. And you can see the objectives. Those are represented by this hexagon. You can see objectives being set up for those teams. You can also see the chevron view, which is a dependency. So there's a huge, robust dependency management piece of Jira Align where you can say, hey, this feature has a dependency on another team. And so those can be shown, and you can set up dependencies again to be worked on in different sprints here. There's a whole color coding section to basically show things that have planning issues or risks, things like that. Let me just quickly jump into one of these dependencies. If I click on this, I can see planning issues around this dependency. I can also click into the dependency itself where you get a little window into a dependency. Dependencies have their own workflows of not committed to committed to done. There's a handshaking idea here with dependencies where one team is requesting help from another team, and those teams ideally should be talking to each other, but this dependency is an artifact, an object that represents their agreement, and then it can be tracked to make sure it really is completed. So there's a whole dependency management here within the tool. Also, just lastly, in this program layer, if we click into the more items, again, you can see dependencies here. There's also risks, which has Roam support for those risks. You have objectives down at this layer as well. And there's a lot of custom reporting available within the tool, a lot of out-of-the-box reporting, but there's also custom reporting that you can set up with even links to Power BI or your Tableau, your BI tool of choice, even to Atlassian Analytics as well. All right. So there's a lot in this tool. Clearly, there's a lot to talk through. Hopefully, you're getting a sense of the capabilities within the tool, the features that are available from backlog prioritization to capacity planning to roadmaps to objectives, even down here, with a whole program doing PI planning, and then using this to help ensure that you are on track with all of your features and stories for a given planning increment. So a lot of great stuff in here. And again, this ties very closely with, it integrates with an instance of Jira, again, to help with where the story work is done in Jira. But all that information is synced back to Jira Align. So you have this whole roll-up of execution and progress from the stories all the way up to the epics or themes. So, all right. So we're about at the end, about out of time here. Just want to wrap up with some questions. So I'm going to just check the Q&A area of the chat. While I'm doing that, I think Kristen probably has already posted these links into the chat around YouTube channels, our YouTube channel, other webinars coming up, and training opportunities. You can also get to my LinkedIn via this QR code. My email address is also listed here. Make this a little bit bigger. If you want to reach out to me, happy to talk with you more, set up a time to talk more about the strategy collection and how it could add value to your organization. So let me check here on questions. Sift through some of these. So one of the questions is, do you provide additional training for Jira Align? And I will say we do, in the past, we have done some more custom training. We don't have a public training, if you will, for Jira Align that we offer currently. But certainly, if you wanted to reach out to us, if you have Jira Align currently and you need some support with it, you need some training to be done, whether that means live training or videos, we could certainly talk to you about that and provide support for that. And we also obviously would love to talk with you to set up, if you're setting up Jira Align from the beginning, a greenfield instance, or migrating into it, or just even expanding from, let's say, the program layer up to your portfolio layer, or trying to figure out how to potentially use Focus or Talent alongside of Jira Align. We obviously would love to talk with you about that. But we don't have any public trainings, if you will, that you can sign up like we have our Jira Bootcamp. We don't have a Jira Align Bootcamp, if you will, that's publicly available. We usually just do it on a demand basis. All right, that was the only question we had. So, and I see that, yeah, we are at time. So again, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully, again, you can reach out to myself or reach out to Valiantys if you have any more questions. And really, thank you for joining us. And hopefully this has been really helpful for you and would love to talk with you further. So take care. Have a great rest of your day.